From the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, this is a Headache Soul production. Welcome to Just the Tip-Sters, America's favorite true crime podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Morgan. With me today is Deborah Wales. It's a special episode of the podcast because Deb is going to be starting her own podcast at the beginning of 2025, and it is a fascinating topic, and I think everyone that I know of who listens to this podcast will be fascinated by the content, and I can't wait for her to tell you about it. So tell me, Deb, what is the title of your podcast?
Well, the title of the podcast will be Dogs 360, and that's because it will cover human relationships with dogs all around the circle, everything from the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I just want to say thank you, Melissa, for having me on.
Oh, it is. It's my pleasure. Deb has been a supporter of the podcast almost from the beginning. She is a high-level contributor on Patreon. Her support has, kept me going on days when I just don't want to anymore. And she has been visiting out here, and it's been a total joy. And when she told me what she wanted to do, I said, well, we have to talk about it on the podcast. So I know so many of the Tip-Sters are animal lovers, and Debbie has the most wide range of information and intelligence and experience with animals. She has trained them. She has bred them. She knows a lot of different communities for animals, but she's starting with dogs. But we talked a little bit today about I'm hoping she branches out. So tell me what made you want to start this podcast?
Well, as we talked about earlier, there's a lot of podcasts out there that I had looked at, and I was trying to find one that would interest me. I didn't really want something on how to train my dog, how to feed my dog. I mean, they're great for people. They're really useful, but it wasn't what I wanted. I wanted something that was more in-depth and told people things they maybe don't realize or don't know.
Yeah, you taught me a lot of stuff today. Like, I don't know really a whole lot. It's some of the subject matters you're going to cover. I don't know a lot about the AKC. I don't know the difference between, titles and breeding, and you'll explain that. So tell me some of the topics. Like, I love the fact that the first, how many ever episodes, you're not even sure yet, are going to be about the history.
Right. And I think that's an important way to start out, because myself, I always used to think dogs came down from a wolf, a jackal, or a coyote type ancestor. Well, it's not true. They all come down from the wolf. So I learned that myself. So I'm thinking if we take these to learn how dogs were domesticated, when they were domesticated, where, and then go through history, maybe where the Romans used them and how they got into different Greek and Egyptian societies, and then hit the Victorian era, which a lot of people don't realize is when most breeds that we see today were developed.
Yeah, I had no idea until you told me.
Yeah, so I think that's a good way to start so that we're all kind of on the same page with how dogs began. And I'm going to get people that are experts to do these.
Right.
And then some of my other topics that I want to cover, again, things that people aren't necessarily aware of or familiar with. What is the AKC?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know what the American Kennel Club is.
Yeah.
It's not all the things I wish it were, but it does some things. And there's new titles now coming out, some from the AKC, some from other organizations that people don't realize even mixed breeds can participate in. So, and they're really fun. There's one called Trick Dogs that I think is hysterical. You can have so much fun with that. And then there's some other topics I want to cover, such as how fostering works, the good and the bad.
Right.
And different charities, how to recognize the good ones and which are good ones.
Right.
And then another topic I really do want to cover is, does animal abuse really lead to increased or further down the road, abuse and violence? Some people say in the McDonald triangle with bedwetting and fire starting, it does. Others say, no, it doesn't. So I'm going to have an expert come on and talk to us about this.
And I love that. And you know where I stand, and maybe you'll change my mind or convince me otherwise. Maybe your guest will have a different opinion, but I hold pretty firm to the McDonald triad. And I feel like if you abuse animals, there's something profoundly wrong with you and you don't need to be in society. But that's just me. But I know you're going to have a lot of great topics. And I think this subject matter is huge. And everyone I know is a dog lover. Everyone I know has pets, and I like to think I know a lot about them, but in our conversations since you've been visiting here, you've already taught me a lot. And then you taught me a lot today. And we talked with Joshua, and has been fostering, his mom actually has been fostering, a brother and sister, and he's learned a lot in his experience. He might end up being a foster fail. They may keep the girl. The boy found a home quickly, and he said he's living his best life. He goes with the family camping, but I think he might, they might have to keep the girl. So he might be a foster fail. But I think the subject matter is amazing. And I don't know anyone who knows more about dogs than you.
Well, I've been in it since I was 2 years old.
Oh, my gosh.
Helping my mom feed a litter of basset hounds, waking us up at 2 a.m.
Of course.
And, then my mom bred collies. And then I bred and showed Labradors here and in Europe. And then I had curly-coated retrievers, and now I show a golden retriever. But showing both here and in the United States, breeding here, breeding in the United States, training here, in Europe. Makes a big difference. You learn a lot of different things. So these are just subjects that I think I can maybe bring that are interesting. And as Melissa was saying, I hope to start some interviews this fall, this fall and early winter, and then get everything ready to go in early 2025.
Yeah, I think Dogs 360 will debut in early 2025. And I love the title. I think it's magnificent because if anyone knows everything about dogs and animals too, but dogs in particular, that's Deborah. She knows so much and cares so much and gives so much. She, volunteers for rescues, and she makes beautiful crafts that they can sell so that they can support, the rescues. I mean, she is sort of the Energizer bunny. She just never stops. And you may know her and you may see her name around the true crime circles on Facebook because she works hard trying to give people back their name. She is, very helpful with Othram Labs and with a lot of organizations where she lives on the East Coast with missing and murdered people who don't have their name. I mean, I don't know anyone who works as hard as you who's retired.
Well, I think for me, that is one thing that's terribly important. It's one thing that many of these people died by themselves, all alone, but to also be alone with no name for many, many years is even worse.
Yeah.
So whatever we can do to get their names back, and thanks to Othram Labs for doing all they do.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do what I can, what little I can.
No, you don't do a little, you do a lot. So I think the listeners to Just the Tip-Sters are going to be madly in love with Dogs 360. I think the content is going to be amazing. And I'm actually really excited about some of the subject matters you have mentioned, as well as some of the guests you have lined up. And I think it's going to be fantastic. Is there anything else you want people to know? I know you're going to have your own website.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I say, I'm going to be working hard and getting the interviews canned and ready to go. I'm lucky in that I know a lot of people in the dog world, so they have a hard time saying no to me when I ask them to be on my episodes. But I'm going to have an expert probably on most every episode. I do know stuff, maybe not quite as much as Melissa thinks I do, but
you do.
I do know. But I want to have a real expert in each genre and each subject, because I feel that's where you can respect. It's going to be true. That's one thing I want my podcast to be. It's like Melissa's, which is one reason I really like it. It's true, it's honest, and it's well researched, and that's what I want. And only subject matter experts can do that. I
have never seen someone who has more organization for their podcast, and it hasn't even begun yet. It's amazing. She sent Joshua and I kind of an outline, and it was like, oh, she's got this very well thought out, well planned out. And I'm really looking forward to, hearing it in its, real form, and all the people that you want to interview and all the topics you want to talk about. And I think it's going to be fascinating. Right. So
I appreciate you letting me pick your brain. And
not at all.
All the stuff here has been so helpful. And I will be working on it. And if someone wants to send me a subject that they would like to see on the podcast, I've got plenty of time to work it into the schedules. Feel free to message me. I'm on Facebook at Deborah Smith Wales, and I'm happy to look at them. I will be adding quite a bit to this outline as I get going. So anything you want to know, you can just message me.
That's a great idea. I will also make sure that if you hear this on the podcast and you want to get a message to Deborah about a subject matter, a topic, something you want covered, if you send it to me, I'll make sure she gets it too. But yeah, I'm sure you're going to have your own Facebook page for Dogs 360, but you can find her at Deborah Smith Wales. It's DeBorah Smith, Wales. And I'm sure she would want to hear about subject. I love some of the information that tipsters have sent me, and they've told me about cases I would never have known about. And while, Debbie knows a lot about a lot, if there's something that you might want covered that she's not aware of, I bet she'd be really grateful to hear.
Right. And if you're an expert in any of these areas that I mentioned, I would love you to be on the podcast, especially, ones that I don't know much about, the history and, is abuse of animals, how does it lead to, and all those kind of things. So feel free. I'd really appreciate the help.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. And you can come on here anytime. And the next time you're in town, maybe we'll do an update.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That would be great. Okay. Thank you for listening to this. And I think we're all kind of excited about Debbie's project and more cowbell.
If you would like to support this podcast and get early access and other cool murderous swag, go to patreon.com/justthetipsters.